Imagine you are cooking dinner, a nice chicken curry, by following a YouTube recipe. And the chef says add 1 teaspoon of salt, but you accidentally add 1 tablespoon. Now the dish is ruined. But don't worry, you are not alone. Because even the top scientists have made mistakes exactly like this. The only difference, their mistake didn't ruin dinners. Theirs destroyed spacecraft. In our last video, we saw how measurement evolved, how we arrived one reliable universal system. But do we still use a unified system? Take a look around the world. In India, we measure road trips in kilometers, buy vegetables in kilograms. But in US, they drive in miles and weigh things in pounds. Throughout history, some of humanity's biggest failure has been caused due to this conversion confusion. A wrong unit, a wrong conversion. Let's go through few of them. Let's go back to 1628. Stockholm Harbor. The Vasa was supposed to be the Sweden's pride, the most powerful warship in the world. Thousands gather to watch the maiden voyage. But 20 minutes later, it was at the bottom of the harbor. It barely left the dock. For centuries, nobody knows what exactly happened. But when archaeologists raised the wreck in 1961, they found the answer. The builders was using different rulers. Half of the carpenters used the Swedish foot, which is 12 inches, and the other half used the Amsterdam foot, which is 11 inches. So the ship ended up heavier and wider on one side than the other. When the wind hit, it tilted and it went down. The most powerful warship in the world, sunk by a mismatched rulers. Let's look into another story. For decades, scientists dreamed of a telescope in space because there is no cloud and no light pollution, just pure perfect vision. And in 1990, that dream became real. They launched the Hubble Space Telescope, the most advanced optical instrument ever built. But when it comes to the first image, it was completely blurry. Why? Because the primary mirror has been polished to the wrong shape. By how much? Just 1.3 millimeters. A mistake so small you couldn't see it with your bare eyes. But in space, that tiny error meant the telescope couldn't focus at all. Then they have to send astronauts up in the space shuttle in 1993 just to fit a $1 billion telescope with a corrective lens, all because of 1.3 millimeters. Now let's go to the story of Air Canada Flight 143, a brand new passenger jet. Canada has just switched over to the metric system in 1983, and this was the one of the first aircraft to use it. But the plane fuel gauge weren't working, so the ground crew calculated the fuel load by hand. But they used the old conversion factor. That is, instead of loading 22,300 kilogram of fuel, they loaded 22,300 of pound, which is roughly half of what needed. And in mid-flight at 41,000 feet, both engines quietly shut off, with 61 passengers on board. Luckily, the captain was an experienced glider pilot. With no engine, no power, he managed to glide the massive silent aircraft through the air and land it safely on an abandoned military airstrip. Everyone survived, but only because of one extraordinary pilot and remarkable amount of luck. In December 1999, NASA launched a spacecraft called Mars Climate Orbiter. Its mission was to travel to Mars, study the planet's atmosphere, and help scientists better understand the red planet. The spacecraft began its journey, traveled hundreds of millions of kilometers through the space over 9 months. Everything seems to be going perfectly. Then came September 23, 1999, the day the spacecraft was supposed to enter the Mars orbit. Years of planning has led to this moment. But something was wrong. The spacecraft was approaching Mars too low. Before engine could react, contact was lost. Just like that, the spacecraft disappeared. When NASA was investigated this incident, the answer was at most unbelievable. The spacecraft was in loss because of a faulty engine or a mysterious problem in deep space. It was lost because of a unit conversion. One engineering team has been sending data in metric unit, that is Newton, but the navigation software expected those numbers in imperial unit, that is pound force. Nobody has checked, and it was the engineer's equivalent of 1 teaspoon of salt and getting 1 tablespoon instead. A small difference at first, but over 9 months, those tiny errors kept on adding. History is filled with stories like this. Different centuries, different countries, different technology. And they all failed of the same ways. A tiny measurement error that nobody thought mattered. Because measurement aren't just a number in a textbook. They are the language that the engineers, scientists, and builders use to construct our world. And when the language breaks, even by a fraction, even by a moment, the consequence can be measured in hundreds of millions of dollars. Thank you.